Chapter 10, The Princess's Choice. The royal dungeon beneath Eldoria was built to break men before ropes ever touched their necks. Wet stone. Iron stink. No sky. Rowan sat chained to the wall of a narrow cell, wrists raw where manacles had rubbed through skin. Somewhere above, hammers finished the gallows beam in the market square. Dawn was not far. Across the corridor, an old prisoner laughed once, then coughed until it sounded like gravel in his lungs. They always build it before sunrise, the man rasped. Makes the crowd hungrier. Rowan said nothing. He thought of rain on pine. Of ashwood fires. Of Elira's hand on his face in the dark. Footsteps came. Heavy armor first. Then the scrape of a cloak hem on stone. Garrick stopped outside the bars, lantern light cutting his scar into hard lines. "Sleep well?" he asked. "Like a king," Rowan said. Garrick smiled thinly. "By noon, people will remember your neck longer than your speeches." "By noon," Rowan replied, "villages will still be hungry and you will still be a butcher with polished boots." One guard flinched. Garrick did not. "Enjoy the last dark," he said. "You will not see another." He turned and left. Keys rattled. Bolts slammed. Silence returned. High in the inner keep, Elira stood at her barred balcony arch and waited. Rain had stopped, but clouds still pressed low over the city. Below, watchfires burned in rings around the execution square. Behind her, on the chamber floor, 3 wax seals sat where she had pressed them into stone seams during the night. A soft scrape sounded at the window ledge. Elira dropped to her knees. A folded strip of laundry cloth had been pushed through the outer drain slit by a runner on the service walk. Inside was one line in old servant's cipher. "Vain listening. South Post bribable. 10 bells to dawn." Elira exhaled once. "Not much." "Enough." She crossed to the door and knocked twice, then once, the old nursery cadence. A guard opened the hatch with a scowl. "What?" "I need writing materials," Elira said, voice level. "For my father." "Now." He hesitated. She held up her signet ring through the hatch slit. "If you deny me and he asks why, I will remember your face." He swallowed and signaled the second guard. 5 minutes later, parchment and ink arrived. Elira wrote 3 notes. One to Chancellor Vane with a single instruction: bring the ledger from Garrick's war chest to the square before dawn. One to Sister Halden at the city chapel: ring witness bells when the procession enters the square. One to the laundry relay, South Post. 2 guards. Coin in bread cart axle. She sealed all 3 with her ring and fed them back through the drain slit as soon as the runner returned. Then she waited for the hardest part. Choice. Flee the keep and run to Ashwood. Or stay in the lion's mouth long enough to force truth into daylight. When the watch bell struck 9, she chose. At the south postern gate, 2 guards argued over watered wine while a bread cart squealed across wet stone. Elira came down the servant's stair in a dark cloak with her hood low and a satchel at her hip. "Princess," one guard stammered, straightening. "My father ordered chapel escort," she said, handing over a folded writ bearing her seal. "The execution requires royal witness." The older guard squinted at the parchment. "This says immediate passage." "Then read faster," Elira said. The younger one shifted his weight, then noticed the coin pouch tucked beside the cart axle where the runner had promised. He looked away first. The gate opened. Elira did not run. She walked into the pre-dawn streets like she belonged there. At the old records court, Chancellor Vane waited under an archway with 2 clerks and a lockbox. His face had gone gray. "If we do this," he whispered, "there is no return." "There was no return when villages burned," Elira said. Vane swallowed and opened the lockbox. Inside lay ledgers, dispatch strips, and one packet stamped with Garrick's private wolf seal. Forged levy orders. Unauthorized burn commands. Confiscation records that never reached royal accounts. Enough to hang a commander. Maybe a king. Vane looked toward the square where the gallows silhouette cut the horizon. Will this save him? Elira tightened her grip on the box. It will give him a chance. The execution square filled before dawn. Market awnings had been pulled down to make room for soldiers. Crossbows lined rooftops. Black banners hung from poles around the scaffold. Crown control. Crown fear. At the north gate, Rowan was dragged from a prisoner wagon in chains. Bruised. Bareheaded. Still upright. The crowd murmured as he was marched toward the platform. Ashwood. That is him. Gods keep him. Garrick rode at the front of the guard line, armor polished, expression calm as winter steel. At the scaffold steps he raised a gauntlet hand. By decree of King Elric, the traitor Rowan Ashford is sentenced to death for rebellion, theft, sedition, and murder against the realm. A drum began to beat. Once. Twice. The rope was lowered. Then chapel bells exploded across the city. Not one bell. All of them. Witness bells. Heads turned. A path opened through the crowd as Elira stepped into the square with Chancellor Vane at her side and two clerks carrying the lockbox. Gasps rippled like wind. Princess Elira. She came. By the saints. Garrick's eyes narrowed. Remove her, he snapped. Elira did not slow. Touch me and you strike the crown in front of half the capital, she said, voice carrying clear and sharp. The nearest soldiers froze. She climbed the scaffold steps and faced the crowd. Rain began again, fine as mist. People of Eldoria, she called. You were told this man would die for treason. She took one ledger from the lockbox and held it high. Then hear first the treason done in your name. Garrick stepped forward. This is unlawful. Vane answered before Elira could. As Chancellor, I certify these records from the War Office and Treasury ledgers. A low roar rose from the crowd. Elira read. Village burn orders signed with Garrick's seal and routed without crown countersign. Grain seizures sold to private brokers. Phantom levies placed on dead households. Arrests issued to fabricate rebel support numbers. Each line struck harder than the drum. Faces in the crowd changed. Fear into anger. Silence into sound. He burned us. My brother's farm. Murderer. Garrick drew his sword. Enough, he hissed. He pointed at Rowan. Hang him now. The executioner hesitated. So did the soldiers. Then King Elric entered the square under a gold canopy, flanked by palace guard. No fanfare. No trumpet. Only raw tension. He took in the scaffold, the ledgers, his daughter, the bound outlaw, and Garrick with steel drawn. What is this? Elric demanded. Elira faced him. Truth, she said. Garrick lowered his sword half an inch. Sire, forged papers planted by rebels. The execution must proceed before this becomes riot. Vane stepped forward, voice shaking but firm. Majesty, treasury marks confirm diversion through Garrick's private quartermaster chain. These are authentic. Elric's eyes went cold. Is that true? Garrick's pause was brief. Brief enough. Then he moved. He seized Elira by the arm and hauled her against him, blade at her throat. The square screamed. No one moves, Garrick barked. Or your princess bleeds before your king blinks. Rowan surged against chains hard enough to tear skin from his wrists. Guards raised crossbows. Chaos tipped. From the rooftops, two smoke jars shattered in perfect sequence. Bram. Mara. Grey cloud flooded the scaffold edge. In the same breath, Tomasa's axe slammed through Rowan's chain link from behind the execution post where he had hidden beneath the platform slats. The shackle snapped. Rowan moved. He crossed 3 strides through smoke and drove Garrick's sword arm wide with a shoulder hit that spun both men across wet boards. Elira dropped clear. Steel clashed at arm's length. Garrick was larger. Rowan was faster and furious. 1 cut. 2. A lock bind. Rowan's blade knocked Garrick's weapon free and sent it spinning off the scaffold into mud. Palace guards rushed the steps. Garrick reached for a hidden dagger. Elira saw it first and kicked his wrist hard enough to crack bone. The dagger skidded away. Mara put a knife to Garrick's throat before he could rise. "Do not," she said softly. The square held its breath. King Elric stood motionless beneath the rain. His gaze went from Garrick on his knees to the ledgers in Vane's hands to his daughter standing beside Rowan with smoke in her hair and blood on her sleeve. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the square. "Lord Garrick, you are stripped of command and placed under royal arrest pending tribunal." A roar broke loose. Not unified. Not clean. Half outrage. Half relief. All fracture. Elric turned to Rowan. "The sentence is stayed," he said. "Not pardoned. Stayed." Rowan met his eyes without bowing. "Your people need bread more than gallows," he said. Elric's jaw tightened, but he did not answer. Elira stepped between them, voice steady despite the storm. "Then begin there." Bells rang again across Eldoria. Not execution bells this time. Recall bells. By noon, Garrick was in irons. By evening, rumors outran riders. The princess had broken a hanging. The outlaw lived. The king had blinked. On a roof above the square, Rowan and Elira stood for one stolen minute before splitting with their respective people. Below them, the city churned with anger and hope in equal measure. "You should go," Elira said quietly. "Before he changes his mind." "Come with me," Rowan said. She looked toward the palace towers, then back to him. "Not yet. If I leave now, the court buries this by dusk." He hated that she was right. She touched his face, thumb tracing the bruise at his cheekbone. "Stay alive," she said. "That was my line. I am improving it." He kissed her once, brief and fierce, then stepped back into shadow. "Ashwood in 3 nights, he said. 3 nights, she answered. Then he was gone across slate roofs and rain gutters, swallowed by the city he had nearly died to change. Elira watched until she could no longer see him. Below, soldiers dragged Garrick through mud while people shouted from windows and doorways. Above, storm clouds finally began to break. The kingdom had not healed. But it had chosen to crack in daylight. And daylight, Elira thought, was where revolutions learned to breathe.